New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, good afternoon, good morning, hello, wherever you are and whatever time you're watching, welcome. And I am Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator. And most importantly, I am a human right here on the planet with you. And welcome to our program today. If you're returning, I'm so honored to have you back and to know that you too are exploring grief. And if you're new, I welcome you and know that you've come to the right place to start your recovery from grief or just navigating your grief journey. I am here for you. And I just want to say, please join the conversation. You can drop a comment or question in the comment box. Would love to have you share and to make this hour yours, to really claim it. Get all that you can get that's available here that will help you continue to understand and be with grief in a wonderful, healthy, and healing way. And I always say that I am here to just continue to move the needle on our conversations on grief, to bring it out of the shadows and bring it right into the middle of our lives, to demystify it. Take some of that negative energy off of it. Because you know what? Grief is just caused by loss. Loss is what we experience, and grief is what we feel. And we just have a myriad of losses in our lives. So many things. And I always honor and pay homage to death, because death is the biggest loss that we can sustain and live from and move from. But also knowing there's other things, health, body images, loss of a body image, aging, a promotion, a big geographical move. Those things have loss really built right into them. So knowing that grief is caused by loss. And the superpower of grief is healing. And some of the things that's needed to heal from grief is that grief needs to be heard. Grief needs to be shared. And your grief needs to be validated. Those are the things that when you do those things, that is what's called leaning into it, leaning into the discomfort of it. And I would just be remiss and less than honest if I didn't say that, yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is painful. I think the biggest fear that we have, and what I hear from people, it's that they're just afraid that if they really allow themselves to feel the grief, if they really allow themselves, quote unquote, to lean into it, that they will be overwhelmed, that they will be taken under and never to surface again. But that is so not true. That is so not true. We have the sense of resilience that we don't even know until we are moving through something that is this emotionally charged. So I just wanted to say that. And this week, we're going to discuss grief as a state of grace. And I just have the most wonderful, the most beautiful guest that will help us or share in the discussion and bring her wise woman wisdom to this conversation. And my guest today is Reverend Jacqueline Edwards, who is an ordained Center for Spiritual Living minister. She is currently serving as the community and civic engagement minister at East Bay Church of Religious Science, and that's in Oakland, California. She has previously served as a senior minister, a founding member, and past chair of the CSL Diversity and Inclusion Commission, as a member of the Nominating Council, and as an instructor of Holmes Institute. She is currently a member of the CSL Spiritually Motivated, Socially Engaged Committee. Reverend Jacqueline is the founder of Platinum Butterfly Ministries, through which she envisions, this is her vision, of creating a world in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive. She believes that we are uniquely positioned to co-create healthy, inclusive, ethnically, socially diverse, and economically prosperous communities that celebrate what life. Yes, yes, yes. Reverend Jacqueline has a bachelor's degree in human relations, a master's degree in organization development and change, and a master's in consciousness studies. She has also over 20 years experience in the public sector human resources management. Through her business, Platinum Butterfly Ministries, she is a public speaker, a spiritual counselor and coach, and group facilitator. Her ministry emphasizes spirituality as a path to prosperity, justice, and peace. So let's just, give it up for Reverend Jacqueline, who's here with us today. So honored to have you, and even more honored to read your bio. Very impressive. And so thank you for taking the time to be here, to share your wisdom on grief. And I had said grief as a state of grace. Mm-hmm. And so I just, before we dive into that, I just wanted to ask you about the title of your ministry, Platinum Butterfly Ministry. Could you just give us a little glimpse or insight into that name title?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate your ministry and the work that you are doing globally through it. And I'm going to touch on that global piece in a moment. But Platinum Butterfly, the name Platinum Butterfly came out of a graduate class that was part of my master's in organizational change studies. And the assignment was to come up with a name for yourself, or AKA, that you felt represented who you were. And this was years and years ago. This was way before the ministry piece was added on. And then the additional assignment for the class was then we got to go around and guess which name applied to which individuals. And almost as a confirmation for me, I was actually shocked at the number of people that said, "Oh, that's her, that's Jacqueline over there." That is, and I am, although I've not worked in that field for at least 25 years, but I am a journey level machinist.
Oh, nice.
And at the time that I was doing my apprenticeship, platinum was one of the most important metals when you look at the periodic table of elements, right? And it has a quality of being both strong and flexible and pliable, right? So when we're looking at people, for example, selecting platinum jewelry, it's for that reason, which we may not know. We just think of gold, platinum, but the quality of platinum is its strength as well as its malleability. And butterflies are soft. Right? And I've been, I want to say, attracted to, but more so just amazed by them since I was a kid. I could be outside doing anything and a butterfly would fly by, and there went my attention to wherever the butterfly went. And then as I got older, and this is the conclusion of this, but as I got older, really not even so much as I got older, but as I learned more about how a butterfly metamorphoses from that caterpillar to that butterfly. We all know about the cocoon. And I think for years and years and years, I thought it simply changed in the cocoon. But to realize that the metamorphosis process is one of liquefying. When I discovered that, truthfully, I actually thought for about 30 seconds about whether or not I wanted to keep this. Exactly. That's a lot. And going into our work for today, it absolutely is what we're being called to do. So I'm grateful for it from that perspective. I'm grateful for the name. I'm grateful for your question, because it's an opportunity to remind me of what I'm up to remind me of what it is that we're talking about. And today it's in the context of grace. Today it's in the context of grief as a state of grace. And when we use that phrase, a state of, there's an implication that we're being still. Just like when you look at a cocoon, there's an implication that it's just hanging there, right? It's just hanging there on the branch. It's being still because we can't see what's going on inside. And similarly, when I think of this idea of grief as a state of grace, it is a state where by appearances, which can vary, but by appearances, I can be, depending on what it is I'm grieving, I can be hurting. I can look like, and I'm going to take this to the societal context right now and invite us to consider that the entire planet is in a state of grace that is being, that came about as the result of grief. We've got all kinds. We've got earthquakes going on. We've got war going on. We've got racial, systemic racism going on. We've got all of these things going on. And yet, there is not only a vessel of grace that we are collectively living in, but there is a grace that undergirds this idea that God, the good, Oludumare, the good, to which there is no opposite, is right there in the midst of it. And on that, I invite us to consider that the very word grace is another term for God, and that more generically used definition of grace is unearned favor. Right? We didn't have to do anything. We did not and do not have to do anything to reap or to experience or to live in or to be in or to be encompassed by or to be lifted up by grace. So it's the individual, it's the family level, it's the community level, it's the planetary level. And by your bringing this conversation, you're inviting us to remember both that idea of who and whose we are, as well as to allow ourselves to be still. Sometimes when we're grieving, we feel like there's something that I can do to make me feel better.
Yes.
But the feeling better might be in the being still and allowing, at the personal level, allowing spirit to speak to us. And then at a more extended level, grief is the biggest, maybe not the biggest, but most certainly in the top two for us to allow community and family to serve us, to snug us up, to love us up, to be available. That one that just comes and sits in the room and doesn't say a word. Right? That one that is Bonnie as the doula that asks questions that are the particular questions that are going to allow me to work through my feelings, to work with my feelings, to do whatever forgiveness work. And grief oftentimes is a catalyst to the woulda, coulda, shoulda. And woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yes, if I had only done, if I had said
forgiveness. I'm going to be quiet for a moment.
Oh, no, you don't have to be quiet.
One short question.
I love listening. I always say that's one of my best skills. I love to talk. I love to hear people talk, but I love listening. I love listening to people share their whatever's in their heart. And even really to really listen to what's not being said as well. But I want to say that you really touched on the point when you talked about the grace and the stillness that comes. It just reminds me of an Einstein quote that the answers to his most difficult equations came when he was doing nothing, in that stillness. And I love how you say the appearance that nothing is happening, but everything is happening in that stillness. So I just applaud you for bringing that part, for bringing that up and out. Because I feel that we do live in a society of doing. It's like, oh, Reverend Jacqueline, what are you doing these days? Joe, the producer, what are you up to? We're always about doing. And we forget about the being. the stopping, the pausing that you so spoke of when you talked about I call it the holy chrysalis, the cocoon.
Yes. Oh, I like that.
Yes, I call it the holy chrysalis. A lot of divine work is happening inside of that chrysalis. Um, I was gonna ask you a couple questions, but maybe I will bring a quote from someone else I met. I'm living in a new community. It's new. It's been a year. I meet so many new people. And when you're meeting new people, there are always questions that come up, always about what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it always, when I say that I'm a grief coach and I have a program, your Doula for Grief, I'm telling you, Reverend Jacqueline, there's not a person that I have talked to that does not immediately share an experience and how isolating they feel with their grief and not being able to have resources. I'll just put it that way, to have resources readily available. But this weekend, I met this lady, and her name is Grace Barrington. I'm going to show her book, Grace Barrington. Can you see that?
Oh, yes.
It's a mother's heart. And I always like to talk about as well as grief being a state of grace, but also the transformative power of grief that, once we're in our holy chrysalis and coming out of it, when you talk about that butterfly flying away, who are you and what will you be? What kind of butterfly will you be? Will you be the monarch, or will you be a white one, or whatever? But anyway, so she shared that she lost her son, and it's been a while. But this book came from her grief. And I just want to say that she talked about the state of grace. In this book, her son died suddenly from asthma complications, and he was quite young. And needless to say that her heart was just cracked open. But what she says is that I believe that all healing gifts emerge from a state of grace. And that state, it overlooks the devastation of any situation and restores a peace that surpasses understanding. And I loved when you talked about that. And she has a poem, maybe I'll read that later. But it was just echoing exactly what you were talking about, that state of grace. And do you feel that it's also a point of surrender? Does that come into play when you're talking about that state of grace, surrender?
So I'm going to say globally, yes, and it depends on who we are and what we believe in.
Yes.
Because surrender is a term that we hear a lot in New Thought, ancient wisdom. It is not necessarily a concept that everyone is either familiar with, or if they are, it's considered a weakness.
Oh,
right?
yes.
I don't surrender. I don't give in. I don't let go and let God, particularly if I don't even believe there is a God. Right? So going back to the global yes is still a yes, because we may not use that term surrender. We may not think of it that way, but I can say that my own experience of grief, as well as what I've witnessed, forces surrender. It the way we say it colloquially is, it'll bring you to your knees.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
It'll bring you to your knees.
Yes.
And in that place of being brought to our knees is the place where grace just, a few minutes ago, I was sitting and I just had this top on and I realized I was a little cool. So I went and got this sweater. Grace does that. It's like that warm thing that we put on. It embraces us. We don't necessarily have a name face for it,
Yes.
but it's a feeling that in this relationship to grief, I'm going to suggest, not being an expert in this area, and I'm going to ask you to give me some feedback on it. But it feels like in that place of being brought to my knees, that place of surrender, it is, I will say, the easiest place. And I'm anthropomorphizing grace a little bit, but it's the easiest place for that grace to just wrap itself around us, to just enfold us, to just protect us. And by protection, and I'm going again to some of my own personal experiences when I've lost family members. And I'm going to add a little levity, not necessarily intentionally, but just because that's how it's coming up, is that when I've been in those deep, deep, deep heart hurting places, the crazy people stay away. All the special ones, the ones that, just have something real inappropriate to say, or another side of it is everything else seems to fall into place. This is grace that we're talking about. This is the grace.
Yes,
everything else seems to fall into place. When a specific example, my mom died right before both my birthday and my sister's birthdays. And when I say right before, like a week before my sister's birthday, which meant more like 10 days before mine, because our birthdays are 3 days apart. And there was something, and I was in New York because that's where my mother lived. I grew up in New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I was in New York, and a couple of things that I'm going to categorize as this grace that we're talking about. It was clear to me, celebrate yourself. It was clear to me, go deeper in your spiritual practices. So meditation is my anchor. Right?
Yes.
Get my meditation in the day can be a little bit special.
Oh gosh.
So those things, listening to that, and at the same time, I was kind of mad at God, really, right about then.
Yes.
And I really wanted to hear it. Okay. But the grace was, like, in some instances, almost magical, right? We've all heard stories about getting cabs in New York. It was like before my hand was all the way up to even hail the cab was in front of me.
Wow.
Before I could think about what do I want to do, that's something that I really, really like doing. I'm a museum geek.
Okay.
I would be sitting on the bus or the subway next to someone, and they would tell me about an exhibit someplace. That was the time that I went to the New York Historical Society. And that wasn't even a person. It was just getting on the bus and sitting down, and there was an ad, like one of those big bus ads, like, right? I could not have missed it.
Yes.
So
yes,
what we're talking about, are deciding it's my birthday, I'm going to get some food that I really, really like. And I have no idea where I'm going, but I feel like I do a lot of walking when I'm processing. And
okay.
This part of growing up in New York, it kind of makes you a walker too.
Yes.
Let me walk across 86th Street. When did this place get here? Of course, I don't live here anymore, but that it would be the perfect place with the perfect cuisine at the perfect right prices. And because of the time of the day or whatever, they threw in a little extra this or a little extra that. I'm going back a few years, so I may not have all the details. But what I'm wanting to share is that in this place of being knocked to my knees,
Yes, yes,
in
yes.
this place of surrender to your question, surrender opens up an even wider space for the divine to show up and show out.
Oh, I love show out. I
Mhm.
love show out. Oh, well, I'm just digesting that because it just felt so visceral when you talked about that state of grace and being like the sweater that you just wrapped yourself in. And uh, it seems lately I have been really into what do words mean, and that's what I was asking about grace. And I really had to. Gosh, I felt like I had a little echo there. Anyway, but I wanted to share with you something that I just got quiet. It's like, what does grace mean? Like there's words that sometimes I feel that I use without really giving it a lot of thought. And when I got to grace, for me, Reverend Jacqueline, it's a hard one to really say this is exactly what grace is. But I'm going to read what I had written because it so speaks to some points that you were making. And for me, I said grace means a mental state of feeling totally open to be at the mercy of the divine Holy Spirit,
Mm.
to be without thought, and for me, overwhelmed by raw vulnerability.
Ooh.
Resign, yeah,
Yes.
resign to what is, to be laid bare, to be
Yes.
without the desire to seek power or control over my life.
Yes.
Be at a completely new space, and that's what you said, a new space and place and understanding about life.
Yes.
And I call it telepathically asking for guidance and clarity about where I am. All previous beliefs are gone or dissolved into nothingness. This state leads to making mental space to embrace new ideas and concepts. So for me, I just so echoed and when you talked about being angry with God, I love it when I can hear that kind of truth and honesty, because sometimes that's what prevents people from really talking about their grief.
Mm. Mm.
That they can't be honest. And as you know, this month in Science of Mind theme is about what living an authentic life. Oh, vulnerability. Yeah,
Mhm.
authenticity is this month's theme. And when we can have these kinds of conversations, Reverend Jacqueline, I think we encourage other people to be authentic in their sharing, in their being
Yes.
sharing and just being themselves. Um, I too had one of those moments that I was brought to my knees in grief, brought to my knees, and it wasn't even a death. It wasn't. I had not seen this. I'll just be honest. It was my son. I hadn't seen him for 5 years. 5 years. And one day I just said, I am finding him today. Today I am found.
Mm.
This is the day that I find my son. And I did find him. And the grief brought me to my knees, just to my knees. He was healthy, okay, but I was just grieving those years of worry and angst and not being with him. And that's when I got really angry with God. It's like, who are you to test me like this? You're supposed to be loving and whatever, and let me tell you what I'm thinking right now. And
Mm.
in that, I found I could be still in that state of grace. I was letting God know exactly where I was. in my, what I was going to say, in my brokenness, in my sadness. But still, I was held. Still, I was held by the divine Holy Spirit of God. And in that moment, just realizing that I was in that state of grace. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just being held, like your sweater that's wrapped around you. I was being held like that. So I just wanted to share that about that visceral response to grace that you so eloquently shared. So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think what we're going to do, we're going to just take a little break. And when we come back, here's what you brought up, a lovely question, a lovely scenario before we started into grace. You were talking about globally. You were using the word globally for our state of grace. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we will hear the wise words from Reverend Jacqueline of Butterfly Focus Ministry, and we'll talk about the global state of grace.
Thank you.
All right.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hi, welcome back. It's Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. And just having a beautiful discussion here with Reverend Jacqueline from Oakland, from East Bay Church of Religious Science, and just having a beautiful discussion with her around grief, a state of grace. And before we went to break, Reverend Jacqueline was just talking about globally our shared, I guess, our shared or collective grief globally. So I'll ask you to speak to that, Reverend Jacqueline.
So, and this is a kind of a commentary on my personal experience at the moment.
Okay.
So it's not a fully teased out thing, but I'm clear that we have to do what we have to do in our individual lives. We have to go about our business, whatever that may mean, whatever our work responsibilities are. We have to go about that. Sometimes some of us in ministry like to use the term being about God's business. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, and I'm mentioning this because and this is part of my growing in the public eye piece, I'm bouncing back and forth with a goal of seeking what is the balance? What is the balance between going about our business as usual and recognizing that there is an energetic that is grief effectively going on, based not so much on, or not entirely on, some of the disastrous things like the earthquakes in Syria and Turkey, or the war in the Ukraine, or the wars that have been going on for decades in so many parts of the world, especially Northeast Africa. There's that we don't give a lot of conversation to, or acknowledging that because we are one, because we are connected, whether or not I acknowledge that I'm feeling it, I'm feeling it. Whether or not I acknowledge or even know, I think most of us don't even know that some of that funk that we might feel, some of that reaction that we might have, that is really an overreaction to whatever is going on in the moment, that is our universal, that is our experience of what is our visceral experience of what is going on at a planetary level. At the same time, I think this may be the overarching piece, at the same time, old systems are dying.
Yes.
And even when those systems do not serve us, when those systems do not work for, not for the majority of the people, they don't work for anybody. Exactly. And so many of these systems don't work for anyone.
Yes.
There is within us still a grieving process that goes on, particularly if we don't name it, if we don't look at what is going on, and if we don't acknowledge the thing. Just that process of acknowledging what is going on has a healing effect, if you will. Process of acknowledging is the invitation to grace, or an invitation to grace.
Yes.
So globally, when we look at these disasters and we ask, and we are compelled to ask, what is it that is mine to do? It may be write the check. It may be contribute. It may be, if you have the resources, get on an airplane and go help dig people out. If you have the resources and the skills. I worked with public safety for a long time. And one of the things that firefighters in particularly really complain about is, I want to help, but you're actually making the situation worse. I want to emphasize, and right? Yes. And you're good with following directions, because all of that is important.
Right.
You want to be the one to jump out and help. Again, we want to bring some levity, because when we smile, when we laugh about something, it also helps our comprehension and our understanding. It helps the thing to land in a different place with us, that allows us to grow the thing for our own, from our own personal perspective, from that place where the thing is going to not only enhance my own knowledge and understanding of how I play in the world, but it's going to help me help everyone around me simply by how I show up.
Exactly.
So, we've had this, and I'm going to go back to the butterfly. They talk about that butterfly effect, right? That the thing that happens in China, and for some reason or another, China has always been the example here in the United States, perhaps because it is, and I can't picture a globe right now to know if it's really exactly opposite 180 degrees from where we are in the United States. But the thing that happens in China, the wind blows it here.
Oh, yes.
What we're seeing, what's been clearly scientifically demonstrated, is that the air pollution that is created by bad manufacturing techniques here in the United States impacts the air thousands of miles away. thousands and thousands of miles away. So we have all of these examples that we are aware of what connects us. It's time for us to take it out of the abstract and bring it into the personal, how am I everyday living? We are delighted that I know one of the gifts of travel to me. I remember when we first started, I remember going to France, and I want to say it was, when was it? It was 20, maybe early 2000s, right? And so the immediate thing is turn your cell phone off.
Yes.
Underneath, because not only will you have tremendous charges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Today we got WhatsApp. The nail of it.
Yeah.
Today we've got WhatsApp. Today my phone goes with me along with my charger anywhere in the world that I go. So as we're appreciating this ability to be in Ghana and talk to somebody in California in real time, we also have to appreciate the wonder of that in terms of the impact that we automatically have on each other, but that we can consciously, this philosophy that we call New Thought, Ancient Wisdom is one that is grounded in this idea of oneness. And in that idea of oneness, we get to select, we get to choose what energetic I'm putting out into the world. Now, traditionally, historically, the ancient wisdom piece of that is that, of course, through our prayer work.
Yes.
Through our prayer work. I may have said, I think the last time I was here, I could feel my mother's prayers.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, in my growing up, I would say it may have been 5 years that you didn't see your child, but he could feel your prayers.
Yes.
You are a religious science practitioner.
Oh, yes.
Right? So you can, so when you say, oh, he's healthy, he was safe, of course he was.
Yes.
Because you kept him praying up.
Yeah.
Right? So if we, not even if, but as we consciously embrace the oneness, consciously embrace the ways in which we are interconnected and interrelated, we have the opportunity to infuse into that layer of consciousness.
Yes.
For CSL, the world that works for everyone. For me, the world in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Right? We can consciously infuse that. And as we do that, again, grace and action, we get that divine guidance as to what is uniquely, divinely, and perfectly ours to do. And I just briefly want to circle back to old systems are dying.
Oh, that's right. I wanted to yes, go back. Yes, they are.
That is what time it is. I spoke a couple of weeks ago, and it was one of those in the moment things where I was commenting about the book burning. You know, it's book banning, and I want to say that I saw something someplace where they were actually literally burning books.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
In the moment, I realized it was the 1200s, the Crusades, the last time there was book burning going on. So what would make me reach back 1,000 years, right? We're 2023. Reach back 800 years, minimally, 800 years to a practice. How much am I trying to hold on to something that's not working?
Yes. Oh,
right? And again, how you gonna ban me from a book? Really?
Yes.
Really?
Can
Okay.
How
All right. Sure. And
It's,
I'm not meaning to say, I get it about the curriculum and what's assigned and all of that. And education starts at home anyway.
exactly.
Right? I
Exactly.
started reading what my mama was reading. My parents, we had a lot. Get out of my face.
That's not the only place we learn is through a book. That's not the only learning. How about oral storytelling? How history was passed down? What do you? How? Yes, you cannot. You cannot stop people knowing the truth.
You cannot. You absolutely cannot.
Yes.
Right? And so,
yes.
How do we? And I want to just make this one comment. I love the way Spirit has me watch what I need to watch when I need to watch it. So
and to know
to tell you what time 60 Minutes comes on. But I can tell you that I saw the segment of 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago that was about a woman who, now this is follow the breadcrumbs, who I heard interviewed on public radio about a year ago. I can tell you, I was on my getting groceries at Berkeley Bowl. And I was in my car looking for a parking space, and this same woman was being interviewed. So now I got to see her. She had a school for girls in Afghanistan. She had 200, I want to say 200 girls in this school. When the US pulled out, Taliban took over, this woman got all 200 of those girls out of Afghanistan.
Oh,
where did they go?
Yeah,
they went to Uganda. She had to find some place to take them immediately. Uganda said, we open our doors. You are welcome here.
Wow.
So we have 200 Muslim girls aged, I want to say from like 6 to 18, who were transported.
Yes.
We're talking about grace now, right? Transported with all that was going on in Afghanistan, with people trying to get out.
Trying to flee, yes.
People worked 24 hours to get these girls, to get this school out of and into Uganda, which said, we not only invite you to come, we got space for you. We're building buildings for you. We're building dorms for you. Bring your teachers, bring your girls, do your thing. Because we're talking global now, right? This was the question. Global. The global interaction and impact. Because we as a people, we understand what you're being subjected to.
Right.
We've had that experience. And so we are wanting to pay it forward in a magnificent
beautiful way.
And of course, there's grief there. We're talking about babies leaving their families. Leaving their parents.
From their families.
Right? So there's lots of grief going on there. And I know, it's 60 Minutes. It's traditional American news. So it's slanted to,
and we'll give it that.
But how bad those people are and how good we are, blah, blah, blah. I get that. But even in the midst of all of that, we're talking now about truth telling. Women who hold up half the sky have to be equal partners in our collective global, we're talking global, in our collective going forward.
Right.
So these women have to be educated, and in the context of spiritual equality, these are Muslim girls.
Yes.
These are Muslim girls, and they're not abandoning their faith. They're not abandoning. Islam is part of the teachings in their school.
Yes.
Right? So, yes, it's global. It's everywhere present. Last comment I want to make, and I said this to her when I just saw her, and her name is escaping me, but I think there's no accident, and you may, there's no accident that CSL had such a presence in Ukraine for so many years.
Yes, and even more so now. Even more so now. Oh, wow.
Global. It's global.
Yeah. We're going to have you back for part 2.
Sorry. We have waving this, and I have it here so I can keep up with time.
Oh,
One minute. Oh my goodness, it's 12:55.
Oh, do you have to leave? Okay, so I just want to say
I don't
this.
have to be anywhere, but
I
think I'm going with your time schedule.
Great. I just wanted to say I'm so glad that you touched on collective grief globally, state of grace, because when we are grieving collectively, that, believe it or not, is what brings us together. Suddenly, I'm concerned about the people in Turkey. When last week didn't even think about Turkey, or the girls that, from Afghanistan going to Africa. That is the grace in a collective healing, that it brings us together, reminds us that we are one. We are interconnected. I mean, by design.
It's showing the inequities.
Yeah,
showing the inequities. We don't get to treat Turkey differently than
the Ukraine or
Syria.
Yes,
right? Because the earthquake impacted Syria and the Ukraine. We don't get to say, well, we those people. We're not fond of the government in Turkey, but those people in Syria, they've been.
That's the beauty of a collective grief. We can suddenly see things that we didn't see before, and also offers us the opportunity, if we desire it, to be of help, if we desire that. I'm not saying you have to, everybody may not have the ability to write the check, but you could surely go and pack a box of clothing to send someone, or make a donation. Look around in your house, what could you give and send to another place? So that is, like I said, part 2 is looming. But before we go, I see we have Deb said, great.
Hey, girl.
I
love that woman.
Oh, well, good. I love her too now. I just want you to tell us a little bit about what you're doing, where we can find more of you and to be in your presence. So what is going on with Reverend Jacqueline?
So, thumbnail, I am doing Platinum Butterfly Ministries, which is now Platinum Butterfly Focus Ministries, a focus ministry of Centers for Spiritual Living. It is literally hot off the press. Like from last week, I got my notice of my full approval status. There's one more piece that I need to do, and we are good to go. The core of this Platinum Butterfly Ministries is a combination of the social justice piece, which I have a deep interest in that, and the political piece, and the balance. Balance keeps coming up in terms of I've solidly landed in a place that I understand you cannot do the social justice work without doing spiritual work. The spiritual has to undergird the social justice work. And I've avoided this word politics. This week, I'm playing a little bit more with that. And I think that falls into call a thing. My tagline, which I've mentioned already, is I'm about creating a world in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Because, everybody's not going to take it. Everybody's not going to want it, but the opportunity to thrive absolutely has to be there. The 2 points I want to make, and one thing I want to harken back just real quick, is that we get to understand that death is a transition, that life, back to Einstein, can be neither created nor destroyed. It simply changes form.
Yes.
And then to Platinum Butterfly Ministries, we are about and are going to be about taking a deep dive into, is New Thought, Ancient Wisdom, is that a liberation theology? That's something I've been playing with since shortly before my ordination, which was about 5 years ago. Whether or not, it's not even a whether or not, but how do we remember? A lot of what I'm hearing now is science of mind and spirituality.
Yes.
How do we remember that ancient wisdom piece? How do we not let that fall off? Is spirituality like code for ancient wisdom? So exploration of ideas is a big part of what we're going to be doing, and not just the exploration of the ideas, but then how do we apply these ideas? How does that translate into the practice piece? Big question. And and I
am so sorry that it has come up at this point, but I'm not sorry that it's come up at this point. It has come in its time, so that we have you back, so that we can continue this discussion. Oh, you have just shed light in so many dark corners that were out there this morning. I just thank you.
Thank you.
Please come back and don't go anywhere. Hang around for a few minutes afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing this hour with me. Your doula for grief, Bonnie Gonzalez, and special guest, Reverend Jacqueline Edwards. Thank you. So, next week and next time.
Yes.
Thank you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.